is generally easier to deal with for displacement maps. So I'll demo this again, exporting or importing a displacement map, and I'll show you guys how to do it in Redshift. The actual putting in the map is the same process as Maya, and then there's just like a similar thing you need to check for the, what the heck is it called? The actually making the displacement show up. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So I throw my mesh. Ooh, hello. Toggling back and forth between 6 different programs and all their nav is like the most confusing thing ever. All right, so like here's my mesh. They're in Mudbox. So there's a similar thing to do in Mudbox that kind of functions the same way as StoreMT does in ZBrush. Basically, if I want to make a copy of my object in Mudbox, I'm literally going to make a copy of my object. There's no fancy button. I'm just going to go to my object list on the right. You can see it shows all the cameras, lights, all that good stuff in the scene. So here's my object. I'm just going to rename this Ridge. To make a copy, I'm literally going to make a copy. And I'll just call this like sculpt. I'm going to hide my original. Just click this little gray circle thing next to it. And once I've done that, I can go in and Shift D to subdivide my model. And then I can just sculpt on whatever weird detail I want to put on. Oh dear God. In case I didn't mention this last week, there is also a symmetry button in Mudbox. It's just down here, like pretty much right next to the brush settings. So I might just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna add in some like really awkward like hair on my face and make myself Santa or something. Oh God. Thing where I'm trying to remember how to navigate in Maya after coming out of ZBrush. All right, so, dear Lord. What did I just click on? Meh. What did I do to my model? I locked it. How do I unlock it? All right, anywho. Wow. All right, so assuming that I'm happy with this old man face sculpt, if I want to, oh, here we go, duh. I accidentally locked my model with some weird menu shortcuts, and there's like a little lock feature right here. I just undid it. But anyway, assuming that I'm happy with this, the process for exporting displacement maps is fairly straightforward. So if you go under UVs and maps, extract texture maps and new operation, just select displacement map because that's what I want to export. It's going to bring up this random menu here. And basically, it kind of tells you what to put in where, but target model is the original mesh that you actually are going to put the displacement map onto. And then source model is the sculpt you did where it's getting the information for the displacement map. So for target model, I'm going to just click on my original model, click on one of the random subdivision levels, and I'm just going to add that in. I've seen it suggested where you subdivide your original model to the level that your sculpted model is, and I've used like I've done that and I've not done that and haven't found a huge difference or like quality issue, so I usually just leave this at 0. And then for the source model, you're going to select the highest subdiv level from the sculpt and just add that into your source models. Just make sure this is set to the highest subdivision level or else it's going to capture like a really ugly low poly mesh. Smooth source models is same thing as that smooth UV setting in ZBrush. So if your model is going to be smooth with the 3 key, you want to turn this on. If it's a low poly game mesh, who the heck cares? And by that I mean don't turn it on. For method, you can use both. I usually just use subdivision. I've found that pretty much does what I need like most of the time. Set your image size to be something less stupid. There's anti-aliasing if you want it. I usually just set that to like 2, just because. And then all the stuff down here is pretty much just like setting your file information. So again, you want to use 32-bit files. It's going to give you a much nicer map in the end. I'll save this as dispmud. Just make sure, for some reason it always overrides my setting for 32-bit here. So just make sure that this is actually saving as a 32-bit image. So once you have all that good stuff set up, you can just go down and hit extract. Sometimes it throws that error for me. It'll throw that error if you have a lot of stars, but like usually, if it's doing the little like processing cursor, it'll still export your maps, and I haven't found it to do anything completely hideous to them, so I usually just let it go. And you can see that took like way less time than ZBrush. I still think ZBrush is like better for sculpting, but I will say that it does take forever and a day to export maps. So let's see what that actually gave us. Did it just let me open a TIFF file and like not give me? Why do I not have to put this in Photoshop? Anyway, so you can see here's my weird like Santa map for my face. And I'm just gonna switch this over to Redshift really quick. So I'm just gonna get rid of this. I should probably install Redshift with the plugin manager. No. Why? God dang it. All right. All right. I'm not gonna go through the whole like thing of doing the file texture. I might, like, if I happen to finish early, I might go through if anyone wants to hang around. I do have for like both of the other classes, which are already uploaded to YouTube. I do go through the process of uploading this in Redshift. Basically, it's a similar process where you just need to go in and for the shape node of the object, you're going to want to, there's going to be a Redshift dropdown. Just open that, and it has a tab for displacement. You literally just need to enable displacement on that. It's just a tick box. If you don't enable it, it's not going to show up at all. If you do enable it, it usually shows up pretty much fine. And then right below that, there's some settings you might, if you ever put a displacement map on and it's, where is it? I can fake it really quick, because it always does it when I do a noise map. But there's like a setting that you just need to like play with and set to 1 if your displacement map happens to be just rendering like a crazy square or something weird. It's honestly pretty straightforward. Again, there's the videos I uploaded if you guys are ever, why am I using this? If you guys ever need to like reference those, they are up from both of the other classes. But yeah, so I mean, all right, it's not actually doing it all that crazy. I was just say, why is it every time I try to recreate a specific error, it doesn't? There we go. So if you guys ever find your displacement map is like, like the whole image rendered, it's just sort of like stopping it at a bounding box, basically far away from the object. If you're in Arnold, there's this setting here in your displacement shader attributes where you like set the scale and like map in the color. Okay, so again, Arnold, you want to set this to 1 for bounds padding. And that should allow the model to actually render properly. The setting for this in Arnold, again, is like right under the Enable button. In the shape node of the object, Redshift tab, displacement, that's where this setting is in Redshift. So again, pretty much like exact same settings, more or less, just like slightly different places where they're put. Any questions on importing displacement maps into stuff? I wish I could like Redshift tutorial, but all right. Cool. So does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff we went over today, or like things for previous assignments, future assignments, etc.? All right. So really quick.